make America great again.
26%, we're charging them 24%. India, very, very tough, very, very tough.
We are screwed.
Prime Minister just...
Mom, I'm sorry in advance, but folks, this is what happens when you put a dumbass in the White House. This is what happens when you put incompetency in the White House. This is what happens when a man's only form of policy is rhetoric. You get the results that you get. This man has filed bankruptcy multiple times, and folks said, let's put him back in the White House to fix the economy. Do y'all see what is happening right now to the stock market?
Let's begin this hour with a look at the North American markets. They've been open for about 30 minutes now, already showing major losses. Investors around the world rattled by the announcement of sweeping reciprocal tariffs from the United States.
So it happened. Trump just put massive tariffs on every single country in the world, with many calling this the largest sales tax increase in American history. Right, so there's a baseline 10% tariff on all goods, regardless of country, but some countries have higher tariffs than others. Right, Japan has a 24% tariff, the European Union got a 20% tariff, the UK 10%, Australia 10%, Switzerland 31%. And immediately with the news, we saw the stock market dropping, and it's not even open. It's dropping during after-hours trading, so you have some experts saying when the market opens tomorrow, it might be a bloodbath. With some economists saying that we could be looking at trillions of dollars being wiped from the US economy tomorrow.
Well, this week has been crazy, insane, and it's ending also in a very high note. Confusion everywhere, as well as people panicking all over. There's this thing that not many people have heard so far called reciprocal tariffs. And when you just thought that people didn't know the meaning of tariffs, well, we've got another word, reciprocal tariffs. Apparently, Donald Trump has seen it all, and on behalf of America, he has decided to put a mandatory or a blanket tariff of 10% to whichever country he feels like. As long as you're a country, you receive 10% tariffs. It all started with Canada and China. It seems like it has spread. I can see the European Union, I can see the UK, I can see Australia, even territories occupied by non-humans. I saw controversial geographical location that was picked. I don't know what criteria was used to pick, but anyways, today's video is going to be an interesting one, and it's all about Trump and the tariffs news that broke in the last 48 hours. Hope you're gonna tag along, and let's just see some of the TikTok reactions. A quick disclaimer: the videos that we are featuring in this channel belong to the rightful owners. Make sure you check them out because their links or the names or tags to their accounts are attached to the video.
I feel sorry for you folks that's getting ready to retire, because I'm sure your 401k is taking a hit. To my military folks who have your money in your TSP, put it in government bonds. Protect what you've earned. Y'all, the stock market is closed right now and it's already crashing. The last time the United States launched a trade war like this, we went into a depression. Trump has put tariffs on over 60 countries because he believed that's going to reinvigorate American manufacturing. What world is this guy living in?
I just love how you Democrats all of a sudden are experts on the economy. All of a sudden now that Daddy Trump put on some tariffs and y'all are like, oh no, everything's going to be more expensive. No, we're going to be making more money and winning, and y'all are just mad you lost. How are you still defending this man? Dad Trump knows exactly what he's doing. He wrote the art of the deal. He had a ghostwriter do it.
This man is not living in reality. And anybody that knows a scintilla about economics understands that tariffs do not help your economy. As a matter of fact, they do the exact opposite. And the Republican Party is just standing idly by, clapping this clown on as if he's Kim Jong-un of North Korea, when the Republican Party is supposed to be the party of free trade. Folks, we are cooked. We are so cooked, it's not even funny. But this is what you get when you put this type of chicanery in the White House.
There you are with your woo-woo witchy leftists believing in ghosts. We don't do that here in America anymore, babes. Oh my God. That's right. Everyone is going to get tariffs. Everyone's going to pay to earn our business. How do you not understand that we're going to be the ones that pay the higher price, not them? You really need to do yourself a favor and do your own research.
Yeah, I think the most ridiculous part about this tariff story is that the only country that was seemingly not targeted was Russia. Oh, wait, and also North Korea. I mean, it is astounding to me, and Trump explained it, or his administration explained it by saying, well, you know, we already have enough sanctions on them. We already have enough tariffs on them. It's not really, you know, applicable. But come on, man, look at the optics, right? Look at the optics when you're putting tariffs on our closest allies in the European Union, when we're putting tariffs on our allies in Asia like Japan and South Korea and Taiwan, but we don't put tariffs on Russia. I mean, again, it just goes to show that Donald Trump is beholden to Vladimir Putin. Just as simple as that. It's pathetic, it's shameful, and tonight's tariff disaster has really proven that.
Literally, what research have you done? I'm on YouTube, I'm on Reddit, I'm doing all sorts of research you don't even know. No, literally, I think you don't know. Do you know that he didn't put tariffs on Russia? Why would he put tariffs on Russia? That's where his wife is from. So it's like, why you wouldn't do that to family? Oh my God, you're serious. I'm as serious as Daddy Trump's McDonald's order. Get it right, you know?
While tariffs are an insane form of reparations in the today world, I think it's very outdated because tariffs kind of imposes some economic burden to other nations, and I don't think it should be used today. The only thing that tariffs saves citizens or people is when it actually protects domestic production, where people consume or buy goods and services that are produced locally. It favors local production rather than imports. It makes imports more expensive and local products cheaper so that the people within the country can benefit. But also, we need to note that there might be a lot of problems emanating from this form of reparations because local products might not meet customer expectation as always. It may reach a point where quality declines over quantity, and also sometimes local products that are being produced might be less as compared to the demand of it in the market. I believe Russia and North Korea have not been subjected to these tariffs because sanction is another crazy word as compared to tariffs. Like for instance, someone is being taxed out of 100% of their net income, 60%, right? And there's another one, let's say 20% or 30% or 40%. Now, when you increase this tax from 20% to 30%, would you increase the other guy's tax from 60% to 70%? What would the other guy be doing? So it doesn't really make sense. Like if you don't actually make sense out of it, you can actually visit countries that have been sanctioned, like Russia, like North Korea, like Zimbabwe, like South Africa right now. It's chaos, bro. Like the things that we take for granted, the little things, oh man, it's gonna be difficult for you to survive in these countries. And so there's a little bit of myth and misconception there, but otherwise, tariff thing is insane.
Okay, here's a very simple explanation of how Donald Trump's tariffs will affect Malaysians. The US just hit Malaysia with 24% tariffs. Malaysia exports a lot of products to the US. That includes palm oil, rubber, petroleum products, iron, steel, things like that. Let's say you own a factory in Malaysia that exports rubber to the US. Let's say your rubber costs $100. With the tariffs, that rubber would now cost $124 to be sold to people in the US. So it's more expensive for Americans to buy that rubber now. What do? They resort to other alternatives. They buy from other countries. You lose competitiveness in the US market, therefore you earn less money, and therefore you have to cut jobs at your factory back home in Malaysia. What does it mean for the manufacturing sector in Malaysia? Not good. This is obviously a very, very simplified example of these Trump tariffs, because don't forget, every single country on earth is getting hit by these tariffs. Malaysia does a lot of trade with countries like China and our ASEAN neighbors. Let's say China and Japan import rubber from us, and as they get tariffed, it will also affect how much they buy from us. So it's like a global ripple effect. Everyone's
Okay, so I just finished watching Trump's speech about the tariffs that are supposed to be going into effect tonight at midnight, and today's April 2nd. So I'm not a Trump fan at all, but I'm the type of person that does not automatically criticize something just because I don't typically care for that thing. Do you know what I mean? So just because I don't like Trump, I'm not going to automatically bash everything that he does. I'm going to hear him out, see what he has to say, use my judgment, and go from there. Having said that, you know, he busted out that poster board type thing that had all the countries that have been issuing tariffs to us and the costs and what we are planning to reciprocate. And it seems like most of them, like what the tariffs we're going to give is going to be about half of what they have been giving to us. Hence the word reciprocal, right? But I guess it's not an exact even exchange. That's what Trump was saying, that we're actually going to charge less. So anyway, it was making sense to me. I don't like the idea of making like enemies of our allies. I think that could really bite us in the ass. And it's also just from a moral compass perspective, kind of crappy, especially when you consider like the people who came through for us in 9/11, what have you. But from a mathematic perspective, I understand what he is trying to say. I do think that the short-term impact on our country is going to be astronomical. Like our economy is going to go to freaking crap. But it's possible, as he is saying, that long-term it's all going to be worth it. I mean, that's just something that's to be determined. I feel like we can't really judge that because we don't know. I do find it funny, just weird, that when he's going through the countries that are on that poster board, he comes across Cambodia and he's like, oh, Cambodia, what they've been charging us, like, you know, world's biggest ripoff. And I'm thinking, bro, it's freaking Cambodia. Like, we are the United States of America. We're such a powerful country. They're Cambodia. Like, why are you so offended? Like, we can't throw them a little bone. Like, but anyway, for the most part, you know, I'm trying to roll with what he's saying. I am bothered by his constant having to blame everything on the prior administration. Like, the world all but came to an end when Biden was president. But anyway, I was still sort of rolling with what he was saying. But then there was a guy that I ended up seeing. He's like a fact checker. And this guy ends up saying that so many of the things that Trump said were just completely and utterly inaccurate. Like, literally what he said about Canada and the dairy products, you know, and what they've been charging us on their dairy products, like all of that was complete BS.
I tend to agree with majority of what has been said, because it's our duty to actually read in between the lines of what our leaders or politicians say to us. Not everything that the government tells us is true or factual. Sometimes they tend to throw us into the wind. While tariffs might be detrimental, especially to innocent nations, like, for example, the mentioned Cambodia. I was seeing also tariffs imposed on Madagascar. I mean, what the hell, man? What has Madagascar got to do with whatever is happening in the United States right now? Madagascar is really dependent on imports because of the geographical nature of that country. Because if you look around, they've got no neighbors. Those are in an island and they really depend on imports. And if such things are imposed, I mean, they're not highly dependent on production where they can produce their own things so that they can also export to get something to import. They're just being punished for nothing. Look at the case of Cambodia, man. The GDP is too low, but imposing such tariffs is just gonna hurt the innocent civilians or citizens in those countries. At least they have nothing to gain. As much as this tariff thing is thrown here and there, everyone around the world is gonna suffer because it means that prices of products are gonna go high. Someone is complaining about the stock market. I really tend to think that for stock market is bound to happen, but always in the short term, because for stock markets is usually volatile. And I think the risk management in the Trump administration might have looked at it and maybe projected that for a short time it's gonna tank, but as the tariffs get implemented, people are gonna adapt and the stock market is gonna recover.
Also, reportedly, these are not fully reciprocal tariffs because Trump is counting VAT taxes as tariffs and they simply aren't tariffs. Right? And that because you have experts saying in reality, the EU's tariffs are only slightly higher than the US's default 2%, so he's counting the VAT to try to justify it. And all of this is notably the tariffs are higher than the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, which sent the US deeper into the Great Depression. And so there's a lot of fear right now as the US GDP was already projected to fall by nearly 4% this past quarter, and that was before the tariffs. And so as reactions are coming in, we've seen at least one expert saying, for economists, the tariff spectacle coming out of the White House econ team is akin to watching NASA being taken over by astrologers and repurposing the International Space Station to charge magic healing crystals with moonbeams.
He mentioned something about the United States during the years of 17 something and I think 1913, so like a really long time, saw like the best economy that this country has ever seen. Like it was at its wealthiest, and apparently that's like astronomically not true. He mentioned something about us and China in terms of tariffs, and I don't remember the exact thing that he mentioned, but it was like a big comment, and that is completely inaccurate. And bear in mind, the guy who is doing this fact checking, he's just a fact checker. Like he doesn't pick a side. He literally just takes what is being said and puts it up against reality. And the guy was like, there's just so much inaccuracies behind the whole speech, really. Like just so much of what was said is just completely not true.
The only thing that has been getting liberated so far is the disposable income in my portfolio. But hey, everything is developing in real time. Everything is in flux, and we'll see what happens next. So follow to stay in the loop.
At the end of the day, I want to see a visual, like exactly all the things he said up against what is true. I tried Googling it, but because this speech literally just happened, there's like really no visuals. There's no like article written yet, but I'm sure that's coming very soon.
I don't know whether to laugh or cry. We are now charging a 10% tariffs on the herd in McDonald Islands, which has a total population of 0. We are charging tariffs on an island that doesn't have any people living there.
I find it important to relay this information because I know that the MAGA community is going to jump on this speech and be like, see, like, yeah, right on, make America great again. Where's my effing red hat? But it's important that you understand that just because he says something doesn't make it necessarily real. He can say whatever. It's up to us to figure out whether what he's saying is real or not real. So do your own homework. We will see what's going to happen. As far as the short term goes, good luck.
So what is Trump getting out of the tariffs? There are really two questions here. What does Trump get out of it, and what do the people around him get out of it? Because I don't think those are the same thing. It's easy to want to ascribe some sinister motivation to Donald Trump, but I don't think that's reality. I think that in reality, he is just quite stupid. And I don't mean that in a glib way even. I mean that in like a literal, he is not intelligent. He has very bad instincts. His failures over and over in the world of business really back that up. He does not know what he's doing. And the only thing that has saved him from ruination and obscurity is his family's money. His motivation is almost always that of a toddler. He looks at the people he admires or who he thinks will give him security, and he wants them to approve of him. So to him, in the position he's in now, those are people who act as political strongmen. Putin, Orban, these sorts of figures are the people that he admires, and he wants to behave in ways that he thinks will get their approval. So if you combine really bad business instincts, stupidity, meaning like a lack of intellectual curiosity, a lack of research or analytical thinking, and emotional immaturity, this is what you get. I think he legitimately thinks this is a good idea, just like he legitimately thought the ways that he was running all of his casinos were good ideas. Now, the people around him, that's a different question. He is surrounded by people with long-standing fringe economic ideas like Peter Navarro. These are people who have been cuckoo banana pants since before they were part of Trump's inside circle. They saw an opportunity to take advantage of his baser instincts and to get their fringe policies that most economists have laughed at for many years onto a national stage. These are people who are very anti-China, who think that our global economic system weakens America, and who are stated, like with their mouths, willing to drive our current economic growth into the ground to remake that system. It is a long-term goal. And they do not care what happens between now and the achievement of that goal. And also, there's a lot of anti-Semitism at the root of this kind of national sovereignty argument. Because when they say globalism, what Peter Navarro actually means is Jews. Because if you dig down into a lot of this sort of right-wing economic theory, what they're actually saying is the problem is that, like, Jews run the banks across the world. Jews run the World Economic Forum, whatever. So at the end of the day, what they're all getting out of it is validation, emotional validation, intellectual validation, that their ideas were right all along. It's really, America is in the hands of men with no emotional awareness who are functioning only on emotional reactivity. It is quite truly being run by children.
Interesting analysis there and interesting insights. Well, I tend to agree with some parts of what she said and tend to disagree in other parts. There's this principle in management where it is usually universal, it's continuous, and it is purposeful. So in order for someone to manage something, can be an organization, can be a country, can be a home, there should be at least some, physical factors, mental factors. There's also general knowledge and a little bit of expertise. Some people believe that leaders are born. Some people believe that leadership is something that can be acquired, and it can be acquired through training or the environment that one associates themselves with. And when she says that Trump surrounds himself with some people who tend to think that they are successful or inclined to that successful path, Trump tends to interact with them so that he can gain some sort of validation. Well, it's kind of true, yes, but also any good leader has to associate themselves with all sorts of leadership. May it be good leadership, may it be bad leadership. For instance, if a good leader interacts with a bad leader, let's say like a dictator or a corrupt leader, maybe say in other continents where the leaders are most likely to be corrupt, when they come and benchmark in developed countries and see that the leaders are performing, let's say they are building infrastructure, the education, the healthcare system is actually perfect or close to perfect, they're gonna go and think, and when they go back home, they're gonna try to be that kind of leader. So this other person who we'd say is sort of like almost a perfect leader, when he goes or visits to that country that the system is very poor, he learns to appreciate the kind of work that is going on in their backyard. And well, let's not go ahead of ourselves that the people associated with Trump are not also taking advantage of that close relationship, of course, for mutual benefit or personal gains. There might be such elements, and it's true. People close to you, people who formed alliance with you, are gonna leech out of you, and that leader cannot even do much because of the support, the overwhelming support that they received during the campaigns. Let me know what you think about this whole thing, chat, about the tariffs. Do you understand these tariffs? How did it impact USA or other countries in the world? Is it something that is gonna be viable in the long run? Are people gonna survive the short-term effects of the tariffs that are being imposed, especially if other countries decide to retaliate? If you like this kind of videos, make sure you smash the thumbs up button. Also consider subscribing to this channel, turn on post notifications so that you may not miss my next uploads. And with that, guys, let me meet you in the next video. Peace.